Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour, US set to set up a temporary port on Gaza coast for aid delivery. Meanwhile, UN warns that a quarter of the population is on the brink of a famine. US President Joe Biden to give his State of the Union address in a short while from now. A high-stakes moment as he looks to convince voters to give him a second term at the White House. Terror strikes in northeast Nigeria. Suspected insurgents abduct dozens of pupils from school. The biggest abduction targeting a school since 2021. World celebrates International Women's Day, a day to celebrate the achievements of women in every field. This year's theme, Invest in Women, Accelerate Progress, aims at tackling economic disempowerment. US will be constructing a port in Gaza to get more humanitarian aid into the territory by sea. The temporary port will increase the amount of humanitarian assistance by Palestinians by hundreds of additional truckloads per day. Senior administration officials said that Biden will make the announcement during his State of the Union speech. However, it will not include US troops on the ground in Gaza, they said. Meanwhile, after the US announced plans to build a seaport, United Nations said international focus should be on large-scale distribution and entry of humanitarian aid into Gaza by land. But anyway, to deliver more aid is obviously good. United Nations has also warned that at least 576,000 people in Gaza are on the brink of famine. Ahead of the US elections, President Joe Biden will deliver his State of the Union address to promote his agenda for a second term. The president will probably use his address to hammer Republican front-runner and former US President Donald Trump, warning voters that he would be a dangerous option. Biden's address will come after Super Tuesday that saw Trump emerging as the final significant contender for the candidacy for November 2024 election. Several polls have indicated that the race between Biden and Trump will be very close. Biden is likely to push Congress to support the Senate border security deal and restore protection for reproductive rights. Former US President Donald Trump is aiming to seize control of the Republican National Committee later on Friday in a vote that is expected to approve his nominees, including his daughter-in-law. It comes as the former president tries to fund his presidential re-election campaign and pay for his mounting legal fee. Nick Harper gets us more from Washington.
The Republican National Committee leadership vote in Houston, Texas, is expected to further reinforce Donald Trump's dominance on the party. He'll tighten his grip with his two hand-picked nominees expected to easily clear the vote to become the two co-chairs. The top jobs in the party apparatus would go to North Carolina's party chair Michael Whatley and his daughter-in-law Lara Trump, with campaign advisor Chris LaCivitia destined to become the RNC's chief operating officer. What's still unclear, though, is whether Trump will compel the party to pay for his mounting legal fees. A resolution banning the party from paying Trump's tab has already failed to garner enough support. His former rival, Nikki Haley, who was competing with Trump for the Republican Party nomination before dropping out this week, has warned the RNC is going to become Trump's legal slush fund. His campaign has so far spent tens of millions of dollars on legal fees to defend the former president in civil cases and his upcoming 4 criminal trials. And he's already been ordered to pay more than $83 million in a defamation case and more than $453 million in his business fraud case. Nick Harper in Washington, reporting for DD India.
The video released on Thursday showed a UK-owned ship attacked by Houthi militants last month sinking in the Red Sea. Police registered Rubimar is the first vessel lost since the Houthis began targeting commercial ships in November. Those drone and missile assaults have forced shipping firms to divert ships to the longer route around southern Africa, disrupting global trade by delaying deliveries and sending costs higher. The US military previously said the February 18th missile attack had significantly damaged the bulk vessel and caused an 18-mile oil slick. Israelis marked 5 months since the festival's attack. 5 months since Hamas rampaged through a rave festival, killing and kidnapping revelers. Families visited the site to remember the slain and the hostages and lit candles to pay tribute to them on one of the killing fields of a devastating Hamas attack on October 7th that sparked a war in Gaza. Several countries airdrop aid into Gaza as famine concerns mount. US and its Middle East allies are ramping up airdrops of food aid into Gaza. US military carried out its third airdrop of aid into Gaza, dropping more than 38,000 meals. In joint efforts with other countries like France, Belgium, Jordanian armed forces also dropped aid over Gaza, aimed amid an unfolding humanitarian catastrophe in the crowded coastal enclave. In a statement, the armed forces said that they carried out 9 aid airdrops in the northern Gaza Strip. Russian attacks on Thursday killed 2 people in Ukraine's northeastern Kharkiv region and 1 person further west in Chernihiv region, local officials said. Oleh Sinebov, governor of Kharkiv region, said an attack by multiple rocket launchers killed civilians in Kupiansk, an area recaptured by Ukrainian forces in late 2022, but where Russian forces are now active. In Chernihiv region, north of Kyiv, mortar fire killed 1 person, regional governor said. The UN Nuclear Watchdog's Board of Governors voted on Thursday to demand Russia withdraw from Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. In a resolution passed days after the 2-year anniversary of the plant's capture by Russian troops. It was the board's 4th resolution condemning Russia's actions against Ukrainian nuclear facilities. The board called for urgent withdrawal of all unauthorized military and other unauthorized personnel from Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant and for the plant to be immediately returned to the full control of the competent Ukrainian authorities. The board also reiterated its grave concern that the Russian Federation has not heeded to the previous calls to withdraw its military and other personnel from the ZNPP, that is the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. All 6 of its reactors are shut down, but it still needs constant power to keep fuel in those reactors cool and prevent a potentially catastrophic meltdown. The IAEA, which has a small number of staff at Zaporizhzhia, says safety there remains precarious. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said in his nightly address on Thursday that he had approved the candidacy of former Army Chief Valery Zaluzhny as the ambassador to Britain. Zaluzhny was replaced last month by Ground Forces Commander Alexander Syrsky. Also in his address, Zelensky said that conscripts who were called up for military service before the war began will be sent to the reserves. On Thursday, Zelensky also met British Defence Secretary Grant Shapps in Kyiv and said that he had expressed gratitude for Britain's tangible leadership in providing support for Ukraine and working together to counter Russian actions. Zelensky said priority areas of cooperation were boosting air defense, long-range weapons and artillery, and joint production of weapons and bringing Russia to account.
I expressed gratitude for Britain's tangible leadership in providing security support to Ukraine, strengthening our defense and collaborating globally to defend against Russian aggression. Today we discussed our further cooperation. We have already reached a historical, unprecedented level of cooperation with Britain. By the way, it was with Britain that we signed the first bilateral security guarantees agreement. We must fully implement it for the sake of our collective strength.
From Ukraine, we'll shift focus to Nigeria. Now, terror strikes hit northeast Nigeria as gunmen kidnapped dozens of pupils in northern Nigeria on Thursday. Residents and parents of the missing children said in what would be the biggest abduction targeting a school since 2021. Police in Kaduna State did not immediately comment on the abduction, which happened shortly after morning assembly at the local government education authority school in the town of Kuriga. Parents said that on the arrival at the school, the gunmen started shooting sporadically before abducting dozens of pupils and disappearing into the bush. Panama has officially ratified the International Solar Alliance, that is ISA, marking its entry as the 97th member nation. Panama's commitment to sustainable energy was underscored as Ambassador Yaziel Burello presented the instrument of ratification to Joint Secretary Economic Diplomacy Abhishek Singh during a meeting in New Delhi on Thursday. This formal act solidifies Panama's pledge to collaborate within the framework of the ISA, joining other nations in pursuit of harnessing solar energy for a greener future. Moreover, on March 5th, Malta became the 119th country to join the ISA. The alliance was conceived as a joint effort by India and France. Currently, 118 countries are signatories to the ISA framework agreement. A short break ahead. You're watching DD India News Hour, but after the break, in a major amendment, French lawmakers make abortion a constitutional right. A near miss for passengers as United Airlines flight diverts to Los Angeles and lands safely after losing a tire mid-air. We will show you ahead sparkling jewels as they will take center stage on Oscars red carpet.
Proudly presenting women trailblazers of India. Out-of-the-world achievements with many firsts to their credit, scripting history, breaking barriers and challenging stereotypes. Nothing in the world can limit women's ambitions and aspirations. Celebrating and saluting their laurels on International Women's Day. Extraordinary women and their extraordinary stories. Watch special broadcast, She Breaking the Glass Ceiling, only on DD India.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
Always welcoming. The vibe of Punjab is larger than life. Warm up to grandeur that's beyond compare. And history that's dotted with tales of bravery. Smiling soul of India, where music, art, cuisine and culture comes together to create an unforgettable impression. Punjab is all set to win your hearts with its unique and colorful extravaganza.
In a world that never stops, where information shapes our reality, one app stands out, helps you stay ahead of time. Introducing the DD India app, your gateway to a world of news right at your fingertips. Your most trusted source of news goes global, goes digital. Explore a world of options, top stories, live updates, in-depth analysis and more. Stay informed wherever you are. Real-time alerts keep you ahead of the curve always. The DD India app, connecting you to the world one story at a time. Download now and explore the world of knowledge, insights and authentic information.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour and I'm Preeti. Friday marks a historic day for the French. Abortion rights will be officially enshrined in the country's constitution, a world's first. Now, it comes after lawmakers voted overwhelmingly in favor of the amendment earlier this week. Tony Waterman gets us more from Paris.
The ceremony is happening here at Place Vendôme, which is one of Paris's 5 royal squares. And French President Emmanuel Macron is overseeing what is known as a sealing ceremony. This is a tradition reserved for only the most significant laws. And with this ceremony, access to abortion care will become a guaranteed freedom enshrined in the French Constitution. And of course, this is all happening on a very symbolic day. Friday is International Women's Day, and Macron very much wants this to represent his party's protection of women's rights. But critics have argued that this amendment isn't needed, that abortion access in France is not under threat, and that this is all political pandering by Macron's party ahead of June's EU elections, where the far right is expected to gain seats. Abortion has been legal here in France since 1975, and unlike the United States, there's never really been a major push to change that. But many people got spooked after a conservative U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in 2022, leaving tens of millions of women with little or no access to abortion care. The decision to amend the Constitution has really been cheered across the country, where roughly 90% of the population is in favor of this move. France now becomes the first country in the world to explicitly protect abortion access in its foundational document, with many here hoping that it will pave the way for other countries to follow suit. Tony Waterman in Paris, France, reporting for DD India.
India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar co-chaired the 16th India-Japan Strategic Dialogue with Japanese Foreign Minister Kamikawa Yoko in Tokyo. The Indian minister said that India sees Japan as a natural partner in its journey of development and transformation. He also recalled year 2023 as a landmark year in India-Japan bilateral relationship. During the meeting, India and Japan also concurred on the need to work together to enhance each other's economic stability and supply chain resilience by taking a strategic view of trade and technology. Indian Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar is on a visit to Japan from 6th to 8th of March. Before this, he visited South Korea, where he met the top leaders during his stay. Thousands of families get affected after torrential rains caused rivers to overflow in the Brazilian state of Acre, causing many regions of Brazil under a state of emergency that was caused by devastating rainfall. Social welfare government's program, Bolsa Familia, releases funds to help municipalities. Jordão has been the most affected by floods, as 80% of the population was forced to take shelter while heavy rains continued to flood the surroundings. And as we told you, thousands of families are getting affected by torrential rains, which have caused the rivers to overflow in the Brazilian state of Acre. And many regions of Brazil remain under state of emergency that has been caused by devastating rainfall. 75% of the city near the river has been affected by the floods. Up your screens, we have visuals from Jordão that has been most affected, as 80% of its population was forced to take shelter. Thailand's Chiang Mai city officials ordered urgent measures to tackle forest fires and air pollution after the city hashed the world's most polluted region mark on Wednesday. Officials are still working to douse the fires, with 328 hotspots detected. The toxic haze covering several provinces in the northern region is evident from satellite images showing havoc in the region. The authorities advised residents of smog-affected region to avoid outdoor activities. In the mountainous expanses of Turkmenistan's Kopetdag National Reserve, the Ministry of Environment Protection has launched an initiative to maintain the ecosystem and ensure safe recovery of its inhabitants after winters. The specially developed plan includes spreading grass on the territory of the reserve. Specialists from the reserve's research department express hope that the measures to help maintain balance in the ecosystem and biodiversity of the national reserve. A quick look at other stories making it to the headlines from across the world now. Germany faces strikes on several fronts as train drivers and airport workers walked off their jobs, causing chaos for millions of travelers and adding to the country's economic woes at a time of looming recession. At least 1,750 planned flights got cancelled on Thursday. Authorities warned that strikes were a factor that would lead to higher than expected operating loss in the first 3 months of 2024. Spanish police uncovers a workshop producing fake Banksy artwork and arrested 4 individuals in Zaragoza on suspicion of continuous fraud and intellectual property infringement. The duplicates of artists' famous motifs, stickers and paints have been found and seized as evidence. Some of the duplicate artworks were sold for up to $1,642. A United Airlines flight heading for Japan lost a tire mid-air following a takeoff from San Francisco. The flight landed safely at Los Angeles International Airport. United Airlines said it is arranging for a new aircraft to continue the trip for the 249 people who were on board the jet. The zoo in Rome presented their new addition to the family, a Sumatran tiger cub. The baby tiger, named Kala, is a female born in early January inside the park. The Sumatran tiger, which lives in the tropical forest of the Indonesian island, is one of the 6 living subspecies most at the risk of extinction. There are only around 500 of them left in the world. An unusual number of common guillemots, a seabird cousin to penguins, have been found on French Atlantic shores. Over 500 birds have been found dead along the French Atlantic coast since the start of the year. Sea shepherd volunteers who patrol the beaches say the number of dead seabirds is unprecedented. Celebrities will be bringing along some of their best friends to the Oscars red carpet, and that is diamonds, adding an extra sparkle to the movie industry's biggest night. Reynolds anticipates an even grander display of diamonds at this year's Oscars. Gold and silver hardware indeed will be making a statement on the red carpets this season.
Would not be replete.
And New York's Times Square welcomes Mahashivratri. The world is realizing the significance of the great night of Lord Shiva's divine energies as a celebration of enhancing human potential and an opportunity for transformation. It is fascinating to see how traditions and rituals can hold deep significance for personal growth. The great night of Lord Shiva provides a sacred space for individuals to reflect on their inner selves and seek spiritual evolution. You're watching DD India News Hour. Up next, we're heading for a short break. But after the break, Prime Minister Modi to present National Creators Award, a launchpad for using creativity to drive positive change. Joint exercise between US Coast Guard and Indian Coast Guard, Sea Defenders 2024, to be held on 9th and 10th of March. Incredible celebration and a surreal experience of Mahashivratri across the globe.
Proudly presenting women trailblazers of India. out-of-the-world achievements with many firsts to their credit, scripting history, breaking barriers and challenging stereotypes. Nothing in the world can limit women's ambitions and aspirations. Celebrating and saluting their laurels on International Women's Day, extraordinary women and their extraordinary stories. Watch special broadcast, She Breaking the Glass Ceiling, only on DD India.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Abducted, only on DD India.
Take a front seat to witness the grandeur that is Odisha. Experience immortal spirituality and timeless architecture that perfectly reflects the artistic soul of India. Get swept by its sun-kissed beaches. Take a walk on a bed of golden sand. Witness aquatic wonders. Exotic wildlife. Odisha is home to an enduring cultural legacy. Vibrant and colorful festivals. Captivating folk dances. Excellence in arts and crafts. With flourishing eco-tourism. With fast developing infrastructure. Odisha is set for a promising new future. Welcome to India's best kept secret.
Proudly presenting women trailblazers of India. Out-of-the-world achievements with many firsts to their credit, scripting history, breaking barriers and challenging stereotypes. Nothing in the world can limit women's ambitions and aspirations. Celebrating and saluting their laurels on International Women's Day, extraordinary women and their extraordinary stories. Watch special broadcast, She Breaking the Glass Ceiling, only on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. A quick relook at the top stories once again. US to set up temporary port on Gaza coast for aid delivery. Meanwhile, UN warns that a quarter of the population is on the brink of famine. Terror strikes in northeast Nigeria. Suspected insurgents abduct dozens of pupils from school. The biggest abduction targeting a school since 2021. World celebrates International Women's Day, a day to achieve and celebrate the achievements of women in every field. This year's theme is Invest in Women, Accelerate Progress, and it aims at tackling economic disempowerment. US President Joe Biden vowed to restore Roe v. Wade that supports the right to choose as the law the law of the land again if Americans send him to Congress. Biden began the State of the Union address saying that his purpose is to wake up the Congress and alert the American people that this is no ordinary moment. The president used his address to hammer Republican frontrunner and former U.S. President Donald Trump, warning voters that he would be a dangerous option. From here, we'll go live to the Capitol Hill, where U.S. President is delivering the address.
Pandemic cut taxes for millions of working families and cut child poverty in half. Restore that child tax credit. No child should go hungry in this country. The way to make the tax code fair is to make big corporations and the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Remember, in 2020, 55 of the biggest companies in America made $40 billion and paid zero in federal income tax. Zero. Not anymore. Thanks to the law I wrote and we signed, big companies have to pay a minimum of 15%. But that's still less than working people pay in federal taxes. It's time to raise corporate minimum tax to at least 21%. So every big corporation finally begins to pay their fair share. I also want to end tax breaks for big pharma, big oil, private jets, massive executive pay when it's only supposed to be $1 million that could be deducted. They can pay them $20 million if they want, but deduct $1 million. End it now. You know, there are 1,000 billionaires in America. You know what the average federal tax is for those billionaires? No. They're making great sacrifices, 8.2%. That's far less than the vast majority of Americans pay. No billionaire should pay a lower federal tax rate than a teacher, a sanitation worker, or a nurse. I propose a minimum tax for billionaires of 25%, just 25%. You know what that would raise? That would raise $500 billion over the next 10 years. And imagine what that could do for America. Imagine a future with affordable child care. Millions of families can get what they need to go to work to help grow the economy. Imagine a future with paid leave, because no one should have to choose between working and taking care of their sick family member. Imagine the future.
So that was U.S. President Joe Biden delivering State of the Union address at the Capitol Hill. DD India correspondent Caroline Malone joins us from Washington, D.C. Caroline, just a while back, we just played a small snippet of the president's address and we saw him receive roaring applause. Till now, get us the highlights of the address so far, because the address is still in progress. Let us hear from you. What have been the key points so far?
Absolutely. Well, President Biden's been speaking for about 45 minutes, starting his speech a little bit late, but to great applause, particularly some of the earlier moments in the speech when he was speaking about how the US is under threat because of a threat to democracy from Russia, from President Putin, and how he is willing to stand up and will not back down in support of Ukraine. This being, a major issue for Congress right now, because there's been big debates about whether to push forward spending bills that include giving foreign aid to Ukraine. So President Biden really at the beginning of his speech emphasizing how history will judge this moment, how this is an important moment, a turning point in US history, when Congress, the people in the room who he's speaking to, all the lawmakers, need to act, and really pushing them and calling them out on not acting so far. In the room watching the speech is also a lot of guests, including the Prime Minister of Sweden. Sweden, the latest country to join NATO. There's also been Finland in recent times. This has been on the backing of the United States, trying to push and support and encourage these countries to join. So important messaging there. Also calling out the former President Donald Trump, who of course will be Biden's contender as we go forward for this year's presidential election, in saying that when he made comments about how countries who are not fulfilling their military aid to NATO, he would not support them. He'd let Russia invade them if they did in fact not fulfill their military aid. He said that he thinks that's despicable, and he really called out Trump for that and for other comments. Some other highlights include talking about January 6th, about the insurrection, the Capitol attack that happened just after Trump left office and his supporters stormed the Capitol building. He's saying you can't love your country, but only love it when you win, really calling out both Trump, his supporters and his supporters in the room. Also talking about how the United States has had a remarkable recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. He said it's one of the least well-told stories in the United States. You know, Republicans, the opposition party, judge Biden very harshly for the current state of the economy. People are still feeling the effects of the cost of living, inflation, which is impacting people. But Biden reminding people that the economy is doing very well, that employment is very low, that job rates are high, and really emphasizing that, you know, he will continue to do what is required to help people, to help small businesses, to help minority businesses in the United States. He also said it's important that people understand and don't underestimate the electoral and political power of women in the United States, who make up more than half of the population here in the US, particularly in reference to women's rights, reproductive rights, and also talking about the overturning of Roe v. Wade, which essentially gave the constitutional right to abortion in the US. That's been overturned and led to a series of changes across different states in the US. So Biden really saying that he sees the importance and the power of women this year as he goes forward with his campaign. And women, of course, have more than half of the votes if they're more than half of the population. He warns people in the room that that is incredibly important, and he will continue to support that. Also, IVF is another important subject that's been debated in the US. He made reference to that as well. He's also made reference to continued support for medical care, making sure it isn't repealed in the US, taxes, corporate taxes, pushing for more taxes on billionaires. He spoke there about there being 1,000 billionaires in the United States and that they only pay about 8% tax. He said that's not good enough when they're paying less tax than the average worker in the US, and he'll push for more tax on them. So really rounding out this economy section by really pushing to get more taxes, to get more revenue in, so that the US government can continue to do what they do, because government spending is another thing that is very controversial right now in Congress.
Yes, Caroline, the State of the Union address generally is important because it spells out the policy decisions or the policy changes by the US government. But also when we talk of this year's State of the Union address, now we see that this is for the third time, or for that matter, Mike Johnson is the third House Speaker sitting behind Joe Biden, which points to the political instability as a big challenge faced by Joe Biden at present. What do you make of the political contest ahead when we talk of Biden versus Trump? Because this State of the Union address reflects a lot on how the days ahead will pan out.
Absolutely. Well, you know, some see this speech as a kind of make or break moment, really, for President Biden. You know, he's 81 years old and he is going forward for another term as president, which would lead him to be in his mid-80s by the time that term ended. You know, President Trump is, you know, not much younger, but certainly Biden's mental ability is on display to a bigger extent, and it's something that's been criticized, particularly by the opposition Republican Party in recent weeks and months. So this moment for him is incredibly important, and you can see that in the way that he has come out. He's come out very vigorously and really being very passionate in the way that he's making his point, clearly to emphasize this energy and this passion that he still has, this vigor that he still has to be president of the country. You know, it is basically a two-horse race now between President Biden and former President Trump for the White House again. Official campaigning has kicked off and been going on for many months, but we don't get to the election until November. So there is plenty of time for things to change. But if you look at recent polls, certainly Trump is doing rather well compared to Biden. In fact, Biden has had pretty bad polling altogether, reaching only about 38% approval in recent weeks and months. So, you know, really reaching record lows in terms of popularity. I mean, a lot could change in the next few months. And this is why this moment is so important for him, that he really has to come out and make the case for why not just people in the room should continue to support him, clearly more the Democratic side, but also the average voter. And the average voter is most definitely looking at whether he's capable of serving another term. That is a big concern for voters due to his age. The economy, it impacts every person's wallet and how much they can spend when they go and shop in the supermarket, and for everything else, gas and all those prices. Also, the border and border security is something that's become bigger and bigger and more controversial in the US in the last few months. It's highlighted in particular by Republicans who talk about, at the peak in December of last year, 10,000 people coming through the border every day illegally, and that being a huge security concern for a lot of the southern states. And that's why we've got this kind of standstill right now in Congress, because Republicans are holding up any bills that have to do with spending and saying we will not approve them until our border security is sorted out. But even when bills are presented to them, we haven't been able to get to an agreement in Congress. So it really is at a standstill. Biden spoke at the beginning, as I mentioned, about Ukraine and the importance of continuing to support Ukraine in its fight against Russia. Those bills also include Israel. And we are hearing, of course, that Biden is continuing to push for a deal that leads to some kind of truce between Israel and Hamas, but also a suggestion on Thursday that the US would be creating a port off Gaza in which to have US forces create a place to deliver aid to the people of Gaza, to Palestinians, the 2 million people who live there who desperately need aid right now. That's already become something quite controversial, with Republicans saying it's essentially providing, a port for Hamas. It's essentially providing support for the side that they don't support. And they don't want to see US troops in any shape or form in Gaza. But we'd like to see a lot more debate on that. And that's something that Biden is certainly likely to emphasize going forward, as well as trying to push for more of a truce between those two sides.
All right, Caroline, we leave it here. Thank you for joining in with those details. And turning focus to other updates, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will present the first ever National Creators Award at Bharat Mandapam in the national capital today. The National Creators Award is an effort to recognize excellence and impact across domains, including storytelling, social change advocacy, environmental sustainability, education, gaming, among others. The award is envisioned as a launchpad for using creativity to drive positive change. The award has witnessed immense public engagement. More than 1.5 lakh nominations and around 10 lakh votes were cast. The award will be provided across 20 categories. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday addressed the Republic Bharat Conclave in New Delhi. The Prime Minister spoke on Bharat, the next decade. Prime Minister said that this decade is the most important decade in India after the country's independence. He also expressed hope that India will emerge as world's third largest economy in this decade itself. Prime Minister said that at a time when the world is passing through uncertainty and instability, India has emerged as a ray of trust for the world.
ये समय वैश्विक अनिश्चितताओं और अस्थिरता का समय है और एक्सपर्ट्स कह रहे हैं कि सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर के बाद ये सबसे अधिक अस्थिर समय अनुभव हो रहा है। उसकी तीव्रता भी और उसका स्प्रेड भी। पूरी दुनिया में कई सरकारों को सत्ता विरोधी लहर का सामना करना पड़ रहा है, लेकिन इन सब के बीच भारत एक सशक्त लोकतंत्र के रूप में विश्वास की किरण बना हुआ है। मैं आशा की किरण नहीं कह रहा हूं, मैं विश्वास की किरण बहुत जिम्मेवारी के साथ बोल रहा हूं। और ये स्थितियां तब है जब हमने देश में बहुत सारे रिफॉर्म्स भी किए हैं। भारत ने ये साबित किया है कि गुड इकोनॉमिक्स के साथ ही गुड पॉलिटिक्स भी हो सकती है।
The Prime Minister said that the country fulfilled the needs as well as the dreams of the countrymen. He also named a number of projects which he has inaugurated or laid the foundation stone during the last 75 days.
पिछले 75 डेज में मैंने करीब करीब 9 लाख करोड़ रुपए के प्रोजेक्ट का शिलान्यास और लोकार्पण किया है। ये 110 बिलियन डॉलर से भी ज्यादा होता है। दुनिया के कितने ही देशों का ये साल भर का खर्च भी नहीं है और हमने सिर्फ 75 डेज में आधुनिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पर इससे ज्यादा इन्वेस्ट कर दिया है। पिछले 75 दिन में देश में 7 नए एम्स का लोकार्पण हुआ है, 4 मेडिकल और नर्सिंग कॉलेज, 6 नेशनल रिसर्च लैब शुरू हुई है, 3 IIM, 10 IIT, 5 NIT के परमानेंट कैंपस या उनसे जुड़ी सुविधाओं का शिलान्यास और लोकार्पण हुआ है। 3 IIIT, 2 ICR और 10 सेंट्रल इंस्टीट्यूट का शिलान्यास और लोकार्पण हुआ है। स्पेस इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर से जुड़ी 1800 करोड़ रुपए की परियोजनाओं का लोकार्पण किया गया है।
Taking a dig at the opposition, Prime Minister said that the country wasted its precious time after independence as the country's entire focus was on one family.
आजादी के बाद के दशकों में भारत का बहुत समय उसे गलत दिशा में ले जाने में गंवा दिया गया। एक ही परिवार पर फोकस की वजह से देश का विकास डीफोकस हो गया।
The Indian government has approved over 10,000 crore rupees for India AI mission, marking a significant step towards bolstering India's AI ecosystem. It aims to empower AI startups and expand compute infrastructure access. The India AI program will catalyze India's AI ecosystem and position it as a force shaping the future of AI for India and for the world. The overarching aim of this financial outlay is to ensure a structured implementation of the India AI mission through a public-private partnership model aimed at nurturing India's AI innovation ecosystem. Aligned with the broader vision of India AI mission, these initiatives aim to bolster India's global leadership in AI, foster technological self-reliance, ensure ethical and responsible AI deployment, and also democratize the benefits of artificial intelligence across all strata of society. U.S. Coast Guard ship Berthoff arrived at Port Blair on Thursday for the joint exercise Sea Defenders 2024 with the Indian Coast Guard. The exercise will focus on aspects of maritime security and safety, especially counter-drone attacks, drug interdiction and other contemporary transnational organized crimes. It is scheduled to take place on 9th and 10th of March. Celestial celebrations unfolding at the holy shrines of Mahakaleshwar, Ujjain. Nestled on the banks of Shipra River in Madhya Pradesh, the Mahakaleshwar temple is renowned for its unique lingam that manifests a natural phenomena of a lingam appearing upside down. And thousands of saints, nagas and monks from different sects have reached Pashupatinath temple in Kathmandu Valley in Nepal to celebrate Mahashivratri. Pashupatinath is the World Heritage Center and considered very powerful site for tantric practice. Mahashivratri is celebrated as a day when goddess Parvati married Shiv, celebrated with great pomp and show. Entire Pashupatinath temple is decorated with flowers, bunting, garlands and lights for Mahashivratri. Up next, we get you updates from the world of sports and cricket. The Indian cricket team will look to dominate on day 2 of the 5th test against England in Dharamshala. Earlier on day 1, India finished the match against England on a high note, displaying brilliant bowling from India's Kuldeep Yadav and R. Ashwin that saw India bowl out England to a paltry total of 218 runs at Dharamshala. Kuldeep Yadav took his fourth 5-wicket haul, giving away 72 runs. Together with R. Ashwin, who took 4 for 51, the duo shared 9 wickets between them, with Ravindra Jadeja chipping away with 1. In the second session, England lost 6 wickets in the entire session for 94 runs. At one stage, they were cruising at 137 for 2, but lost the next 8 wickets for just 81 runs. For India, the 50s by openers Rohit Sharma and Yashasvi Jaiswal took India to a commanding 135 for 1 at stumps. International Women's Day is celebrated every year on 8th of March, a day to celebrate the achievements of women in every field, from grassroots activism to global movements and their share in protecting the country. Today, we honor the resilience, strength and contribution of women everywhere. Take a look at this detailed report.
Today, on International Women's Day 2024, we celebrate the achievements of Indian women who have made their mark on the global stage. This year's theme is Invest in Women, Accelerate Progress. Resonates strongly in India as we witness the incredible feats of women across all fields. From Priyanka Chopra's success in Hollywood to Gwyneth Monga clinching an Oscar for Indian documentary Elephant Whisperers, Indian women have proven time and again that they are forces to be reckoned with. In India's groundbreaking journey to space exploration, Nigar Shahji, Project Director Aditya L1 and Ritu Karidhal, Rocket Women of India, and others have left an indelible mark. Indian female entrepreneurs like Kiran Majumdar-Shaw and Indra Nui have built empires and inspired millions with their leadership and innovation. Meanwhile, athletes like Mary Kom, Sheetal Devi and PV Sindhu have shown the world what true determination and skill can achieve. In the realm of politics, women like Sushma Swaraj, Nirmala Sitharaman, Meenakshi Lekhi, Smriti Irani and many more have paved the way for future generations of female leaders. India, under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, is making big strides as far as women empowerment is concerned. After years of work, the Indian Parliament passed the Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam or Women's Reservation Bill in 2023, giving them 1/3 of seats in Lok Sabha, state legislative assemblies and the Delhi Assembly.
In India, we are not limited to women's empowerment. Ours is a women-led development. Women are setting the agenda for development and are also the agents of growth and change.
Women, with their perseverance, are breaking all records. This year, we also saw the first women contingent of forces at Republic Day Parade 2024. As we celebrate International Women's Day in India, let us continue to invest in our women, support their dreams, and accelerate progress towards a more inclusive and equal society. Because when we empower women, we empower the world, we empower the universe. Lipakshi Kurana, DD India.
Every year, International Women's Day aims to promote a sense of unity and solidarity among women globally. Women workforce in India's public service broadcaster at Doordarshan came together to share their experiences, support each other, and also celebrate their collective strength in pursuing equal rights and opportunities. Our detailed report next brings you more. Take a look.
Good evening. The headlines. Brisk to moderate polling is reported in the Nagaland Assembly elections.
For decades, Doordarshan's news presenters have been iconic figures, embodying trust and authority.
Government of all possible assistance.
Their reassuring presence during challenging periods in India's history cultivated a sense of trust and reliability among viewers.
This is Doordarshan News. Good evening and welcome. In the headlines, Finance Minister says austerity package will not go against the interests of the working class.
From a single news source in the 1980s, Doordarshan now boasts multiple channels catering to diverse regional and thematic audiences. To increase gender diversity in newsrooms, it implemented various initiatives, actively recruited and trained more women journalists, resulting in higher representation of women. not just in news reporting and anchoring roles.
Thank you very much, Ollie Barrett, joining us all from Westminster, London. You're watching DD India Global.
But also engineers behind the scenes, tasked with the most complex functions.
News changes every second, every moment. You have to handle you have to coordinate with the producers, with the editors and everybody. Sometimes as it's a male-dominated society, you have to face them. Sometimes you rebel and sometimes you don't.
From an alert technical director and a cohesive output editor, to the panel producers responsible for the functioning landscape in the broadcast system, all the roles are donned by women.
Has been the performance of India's youth brigade.
Introduction of policies like flexible scheduling and maternity leave benefits have strengthened work-life balance for women employees, contributing to a more inclusive and comprehensive news coverage. As trust in news remains a multifaceted concept, initiatives like training programs for women journalists and encouraging applications from diverse backgrounds help address the gender gap, and this will continue to be the priority. Bureau Report, DD India.
All right, we've got your detailed report showing the contribution of women in every sector of the country. And today at DD India, Doordarshan, also women were holding fort and making sure that every news reaches you. So I am flanked by my women colleagues who are present at DD India today morning. And all of us together wish you all Happy International Women's Day. And with that, we come to the end of this edition of DD India News Hour. That's it. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. And you can also connect with us on Facebook, X, and also Instagram. We will be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off. And from all of us here on DD India, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.